We've talked about how to be a great blogger before. We've got a handful of them on lockergnome.com. At least I'd like to believe so. We allow people to post their own blogs on geeks.lockergnome.com today, although the future of that network is kind of in question because right now it costs us a lot more money than we can really get out of that network. But it's still a good place to get your thoughts from point A to point B. Creighton Miller, who is a good blogger, despite what any of you may believe, and any evidence to the contrary, he's written an article that's linked in the description, How to Be the Worst Blogger Ever. And I'm going to go ahead and +1, tweet, and like it. Hopefully you will as well. The link is right there. Click it. So he's got a few ideas on how to be a really bad blogger, if you weren't already aware. Number one, don't do any research. That'd be a great way. Because, what you have to say must be the right thing to say. And everybody would agree with you. Isn't that right? Well, you think you're right, and that's fine to think you're right. But without doing your research, yeah, the article's probably going to suck. I mean, you may deliver it in an authoritative way, but without research to back up your assertions, it's not as strong as it could have been. But that's okay if you want to be a really bad blogger. Another thing that you could do to be a bad blogger, create confusing or misleading headlines. So, if the headline that's created has nothing to do with the topic at hand, I mean, there may be a loose connection, it may be a play on words, but generally speaking, you will or will not read an article based on its headline. Now, if this headline, How to Be the Worst Blogger Ever, was titled something like, How Not to Do Ramen Noodles in a White Wine Sauce and some kind of mustard, which would be a horrible title. But it would have nothing to do with the topic of this particular article, which would make it funny because that would be ironic. It would be a bad title for an article about how to be a... You guys, you get it? You get it there? Didn't make any sense? Yeah, that's a way to be a bad blogger. Don't make any sense. And hopefully you're not using this video as an example of how not to record a video because I'm doing this intentionally. Are you confused? Good. Another thing you could do to be a bad blogger, write very long paragraphs. TLDR is short for the Locker Gnome Daily Report, but it's also short for Too Long Didn't Read. In big chunks of text, man, I get lost halfway through. Give me the beginning and the end. And this was there's been studies done, since the beginning of time, probably not that far back, but people tend to remember certain numbers in a list, like the first few and the last few. It's the same way with words inside a paragraph. The shorter the paragraph, the more someone is going to retain the information that you're sharing. And so some of the paragraphs you might find on lockergnome.com tend to be of the shorter variety rather than the longer variety. It's okay to hit return every so often. Break it up for the user. So he's got a handful of other things that you could do to be a bad blogger, including writing for yourself, not your audience. Use complex language. Don't edit or proofread. And the list goes on and on and on. He, like Creighton himself, just goes on and on. No, I'm kidding. He actually has very good points that he makes. And if you are interested in being a blogger, you'd be best served by learning how not to blog more than how to blog, because it's more about what you don't do than it is what you do that will ultimately spell your success or failure as someone who's trying to communicate using a written method. I use video, and that allows me, I use both written formats and video formats and spoken word and whatnot. I'm allowed a bit more leeway when I speak in video than I would. If anybody went back and transcribed this video, I think it would be one long sentence. I tend to interrupt myself midway through the sentence. I don't know why. It's like I create all these sentence fragments as I go on, but I think you get the point. Don't you? Really? Do you have any other ideas about how you could be a bad blogger? Feel free to leave a comment, which I'm sure you're going to do anyway. And be sure to leave it on the post, because if this is how how to be a bad commenter is not commenting at all. Being a good commenter is generally commenting and adding something to the fray. But if there's one thing a blogger does that annoys you, share it. Tell us what you think. It's not too much of a hassle, is it, really? Because you guys like telling me what you think every other way, right? Microagent says, Creighton, would someone on Google actually search to learn how to be a bad blogger? See, that's a good question. I doubt it. So Was the headline a good one? Would you read the article? Did you read the article? Are you a bad blogger or just a bad person in general? I don't know if you may be a nice person and a bad blogger. I don't know. But if you have any other suggestions on how we can, potentially improve our workflow and not suck as much, feel free to share.